Have you ever looked at your phone's location history and seen places you don't remember visiting? Ever arrived home with an empty gas tank after what should have been a short drive? Most people would chalk it up to their memory, maybe stress from work making them zone out during their commute. But what if I told you that sometimes, when we think we're losing time, we're actually losing ourselves? The story I'm about to share with you was found on a laptop in an abandoned apartment in Idaho, Trout Creek. The tenant, Jake Morrison, had disappeared without a trace 3 weeks earlier. His landlord discovered the laptop still running, displaying a document that defied explanation. The police dismissed it as fiction, the ramblings of a man suffering from some kind of mental breakdown. But here's what they couldn't explain. Jake's car was found 200 miles away in a cemetery parking lot. The security footage showed him visiting a grave that bore his own name, dated a month before his disappearance. The groundskeeper confirmed he'd been a regular visitor for months, always coming alone, always talking to someone who wasn't there. Even stranger, multiple witnesses in different towns claimed to have seen Jake during the exact time security cameras showed him at work. Same man, same face, but living what appeared to be completely different lives. The laptop contained over 50 hours of dashcam footage showing Jake driving to places he claimed never to have visited, having conversations with people who weren't there, living as someone he insisted he'd never been. What you're about to hear is Jake's account of his final weeks, his attempt to understand what was happening to him before he vanished entirely. The police still consider this an unsolved missing person case, but after reading what Jake left behind, I'm not sure he was ever really missing. I think he was already gone, and something else was trying to find its way back. But before we start, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and press the like button if you enjoy. Now let's start with the main story. I'm writing this because I need someone to know what happened. If you're reading this, and I'm gone, please show this to the police. My name is Jake Morrison, and I think I'm losing time. Or maybe something worse is happening. It started 3 weeks ago with my gas tank. I drive the same route every day, 22 minutes from my office to my apartment, Highway 4-9 to Maple Street. Same boring commute for 2 years. But I started arriving home with an empty tank when I'd filled up that morning. At first, I thought maybe I had a leak. Then I checked my phone's location history. The GPS showed impossible detours, 4-hour routes through parts of town I'd never seen, streets that didn't exist on any map. According to my phone, I was visiting cemeteries, abandoned lots, empty houses in neighborhoods I couldn't even pronounce the names of, but I had no memory of any of it. I installed a dashcam thinking I was sleepwalking behind the wheel, having some kind of episodes. What I found was so much worse. The first video showed me driving normally until I reached the intersection of Highway 49 and Collins Road. Then, without any change in my expression, I took the exit. I drove for 3 hours to a place called Millbrook Cemetery, 90 miles away. In the video, I got out of the car and walked directly to a specific grave. I stood there for 2 hours, talking. The audio picked up my voice clearly, but I was responding to someone, having a full conversation with invisible people. "I know you're disappointed in me, Dad," I heard myself say, "but I tried my best with the decisions you left me." My father died when I was 12. I never knew him well enough to disappoint him. The house on Oak Street? You're right. I should have fought harder to keep it. But Michael needed the money more than I needed the memories. There is no house on Oak Street. My father never owned property. And Michael, that was my brother who died in infancy, before I was born. In the video, I nodded along to responses I couldn't hear, laughing at jokes nobody told, crying over words that weren't spoken. For 2 hours, I had an animated conversation with the air above a stranger's grave. The headstone read, "Robert Morrison, beloved father and husband, 1965 to 2018. But my father's name was James, and he died in 2009. I confronted myself the next morning. rewatching the footage in my kitchen. The man in the video looked exactly like me, but he knew things I didn't know, had memories I'd never formed. He mentioned my grandmother's maiden name, which I'd never learned. He talked about a childhood dog named Chester that never existed. I tried staying late at work, thinking maybe I could avoid whatever was triggering these episodes. But the location data showed that I had still made the trips, even when I was provably in my office building with security footage to back it up. The second video was worse. This time, I drove to an abandoned house on the outskirts of town. The timestamp showed I'd arrived at 3:17 p.m., exactly when I was in a meeting with 6 colleagues. In the video, I walked through the empty rooms like I owned the place, pointing out furniture that wasn't there. "Remember this workshop, son?" I said to no one. "You used to help me build birdhouses here every weekend. I've never built anything in my life. I hate manual work. Your mother painted that wall yellow," I continued, gesturing to a bare concrete surface. "Said it would make the room feel warmer when you came down to work on your model planes. I had a normal childhood with both parents until Dad died. No workshop, no model planes, no weekend projects. But the worst part was when I walked to what looked like a bedroom. I stood in the doorway and started sobbing, deep, gut-wrenching sobs like I was grieving something profound. "I'm so sorry I wasn't here," I whispered. "I should have known you were struggling. I should have been a better father. I've never been a father." The pattern continued. Every day, according to my GPS and dashcam, I was living a completely different life, meeting with people who didn't exist, visiting places I'd never been, mourning losses I'd never experienced. The man in the videos had my face, my voice, my mannerisms, but he was someone else entirely. Someone with different memories, different relationships, different tragedies. Last week, I followed my own GPS trail to see if the locations were real. Millbrook Cemetery exists. The abandoned house is real. Every single place I had visited was a real location. And at every stop, I found people who remembered me. The cemetery groundskeeper nodded when he saw me. "Back again, Robert? You don't usually come during the day." Robert. The name on the headstone. At the abandoned house, a neighbor across the street waved. "Haven't seen you in a while, Mr. Morrison. How's Jake doing with his job?" "Jake. That's my name." But to him, I was someone else. Someone with a son named Jake. "He's working in the city now, right? Must be proud. You raised a good kid." I wanted to scream that I am Jake, that there is no Mr. Morrison with a working son. But the look in his eyes was so certain, so familiar, like we'd had this conversation before. I started recording everything. Every conversation, every encounter, every impossible moment of recognition from strangers who knew a version of me that didn't exist. The recordings revealed the horrible truth. I wasn't having memory lapses or dissociative episodes. I was somehow living multiple lives simultaneously, in different timelines, with different histories. The man visiting those places wasn't me having blackouts. He was me from a reality where I had different parents, different experiences, different tragedies. But somehow, our lives were bleeding together. 3 days ago, I found the worst video yet. I had driven to Hillside Memorial Gardens, a cemetery I'd never heard of. In the footage, I walked directly to a fresh grave and fell to my knees, screaming. Not the controlled grief from the other videos. This was raw, animalistic pain. The headstone read Jake Morrison, 1992 to 2024, beloved son. According to the date, I had died last month. In the video, I, the other me, clawed at the dirt with my bare hands, trying to dig. "I should have been there," he sobbed. "I should have saved you. I should have seen the signs." He stayed there until sunrise, talking to my grave about a motorcycle accident that never happened, about warning signs he missed, about how he failed as a father. But here's what makes me wake up screaming every night. When I went to check if Hillside Memorial Gardens was real, I found the grave. My name, my birth date, last month's date of death, fresh flowers on the dirt, a note tucked under the headstone in handwriting I recognized as my own. I'll find a way to bring you back, son. Dad promises. I've never been anyone's son to a living father. I've never died in a motorcycle accident. I've never had a father who looked exactly like me, mourning at my grave. But somewhere, in some other version of reality, all of these things are true. And somehow, these other versions of me are finding ways to cross over into my world. Yesterday, I came home to find groceries I didn't buy in my kitchen, food I've never eaten, brands I don't recognize, a note on my refrigerator in my handwriting, Jake's favorites for when he comes home from work. My car keys were moved to a hook I don't have, next to a family photo I've never seen. In the picture, I'm older, standing with a younger version of myself, but the younger version has different eyes, a different smile. He's wearing a work uniform from a company I never worked for. Last night, I didn't sleep. I watched my apartment, waiting to see if another version of me would come home. At 3 a.m., my door opened. I watched myself walk in, but this version of me was wearing clothes I don't own, carrying keys to a truck I don't drive. He moved through my apartment like it was his, checking rooms, looking for someone. "Jake?" he called out. "Son, are you home? Your motorcycle's in the parking lot." He looked exactly like me, but older, grayer, the way a father looks when he's been worried sick. When he saw me sitting at my kitchen table, he didn't scream. He just started crying. "Oh, son," he whispered. "I've been looking everywhere for you. I thought I lost you again." He reached out to touch my shoulder, and his hand went right through me. That's when I understood. I'm not the one crossing over into other realities. I'm the one who's dead. I'm the Jake from the grave, somehow still existing, watching other versions of my father try to find me, try to save me, try to bring me back from an accident that killed me last month. The missing hours aren't mine, they're his. Different versions of the father I never really had, living in realities where I existed long enough to become his son, then died in ways that broke him completely. They're using my body, my life, trying to make contact with a version of me that can't die, can't leave them. But I'm already gone, and I think they're starting to realize that the Jake they're looking for doesn't exist anymore. The man I saw last night whispered something before he faded away. If you're reading this, and you're not my Jake, then I'm sorry. I never meant to scare you. I just miss my son so much. I found this note when I woke up this morning, written in my handwriting but not in my words. The crossing points are getting weaker. Soon I won't be able to reach you anymore. But before I go, you should know, in every reality where you lived longer, you were loved completely. In every timeline where you became my son, you were the best part of my world. I don't think I have much time left. If you find this, and you start experiencing missing hours, GPS routes you don't remember taking, conversations with people who aren't there, don't try to find the truth. Some mysteries are worse than not knowing. Some missing hours are better left missing, because sometimes the truth is that you're already gone, and everyone you never knew you meant everything to is trying desperately to bring you back. And that's more terrifying than any monster you could imagine.